We are live. Manic
boy.
Chill.
Oh my.
Shane.
Yeah.
Scott.
Yep.
No Clay for one more week. Clay will be back next week. Rich Rebar is coming on the stream. Next week, we'll be back to your regularly scheduled program. But tonight, it is the start of July, Shane. We are 2 weeks away from training camps. I believe 2 weeks from today, the first training camps open. And then it's just going to be rapid fire information from then on to the beginning of the season. So we're going to go for 2 hours tonight. No Discord show this week. We'll be available in the Discord maybe for a morning drive on Friday. We got our recording issues fixed over there. So hopefully we have every piece of content we do inside the Discord will be able to be preserved. Those not in there don't understand that sentence. But regardless, we're going to be going tonight till 10:30, maybe longer. Just depends on how engaged the chat is. But we have some hammers to do, but this isn't going to be a full hammer stream. We are going to be going through a lot of your questions in here, big picture topics. There's been some stuff in the Discord that I just wanted to hash out on stream so that everybody can kind of put some of these ideas to practice. Because I've been putting them to practice, but then I will post them in the chat and there's no context. So I really wanted to get on here and talk through some of that. The wide receiver saturation, kind of understanding some of those principles that we've been talking on in the Discord. But we're going to get to some hammers. We're going to get to some of your questions. Shane is in charge of starring any good topics that can create some conversation tonight. But Shane, let's get right into it. We got a couple hammers to do. Then I'm going to let you host the show for a little bit. Let you read some of the chat topics that you want to go over and anything you want to put in there. We have much more availability tonight to get to your questions that are not on the hammer streams. So you ready to roll, my friend?
Sure.
All right. Do a couple hammers. This one is from Blaze Win. 12 teams start 9, Superflex, half PPR, half point tight end premium, 0.05 point per carry. That is a lot of point something
Points.
Fives. Do you got them all tracked?
A lot of points, yes.
Okay. That 0.05 point per carry. Does that matter to you, Shane? That's a lot. 20 carries gets 1 point. That's very well earned.
Yeah, no, I don't care about that at all. Literally none. There's no carry.
Okay. All right. No carrying about carries. All right. Burrow, Richardson, Spears, Zamir White, Brian Robinson, Cans, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Christian Kirk, Jalen Polk. We got Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant, 225 first. Remember, this is a start 9. Tried to make moves for Jalen Waddle and Garrett Wilson. No luck. Shane, any moves Blaze should make? Home league, everyone thinks they have a chance to win. No one will move a piece for any of the first just yet. So there's the team. Home league. So just picture a league where everybody thinks they're contenders. Every single piece, regardless of their profile, their age, everything is unmovable at this point. What do you do?
So you can't trade for anything and you can't trade away anything.
We don't know that. We don't know that. I assume he has not tried or she has not tried. Blaze can be a male or female. You have not
I think
tried.
It's Blase.
Okay.
Blase. I'm going to prefer to call him Blase.
We haven't. Have we tried moving Christian Kirk?
I mean, yeah, Polk, Christian Kirk. I mean, well, that's really all you have that's of any value.
First of all,
premium Pitts. Well,
if this is your team, is this team winning? Is that your goal? Do you have enough to win, or are you? Because that would probably determine whether you're motivated to trade for or trade away a Christian Kirk type.
If Marvin Harrison actually is a top 5 wide receiver to start his rookie season, if Malik Neighbors is a top 12 wide receiver, yes, you can win with this. Definitely. Your quarterback room's pretty good. Running back, I know we like junky running backs. I probably would like a better running, at least anchor back in a start 9. But either way, Christian Kirk, moving him, not going to be the reason that you don't win if you do move him. That's probably one of the dudes I'd be looking to move.
Any creative deals you can send out, given it's a start 9, that would motivate somebody to actually make a move that makes it seem like they're winning a deal, but then come the season, you're going to be really glad you did that type of trade? You're not already made it clear a first is not buying you anything of relevance here, meaning you're almost better off holding the picks, maybe even until they're ready to be drafted, right? Like if no one ever wants picks until the very end. Like maybe this is a league where since it's shallow, what you're
I mean,
getting for those picks isn't even worth it. But what can you do creatively? Could you add Polk to a first to get another starter? Would that work?
Yeah, I mean, because that's where I was just doing the math or counting, which counts as math for me. Sanford's in here saying, how about Neighbors and Spears for Bijan? If I have Bijan, I'm not moving him for that. Not in this format. But hey, I'm going to
Neighbors in a first for Bijan. You doing that?
Yeah, but I would start. I do like his idea. You start with Spears first. That's something like that is definitely something you should look into. Although I'd prefer we actually go with Gibbs or Breece Hall. But I mean, that's all personal taste at that point, right?
Yeah, it feels like you're going to probably have to overwhelm somebody with a type of offer that makes them go, okay, I can do a lot more stuff with this package of picks and players. But I'd almost be willing to go the other way. Now, if you just tell me that nobody even wants Christian Kirk, nobody wants Zamir White, nobody wants Brian Robinson, like nobody's actually interested in buying anything either, that's just a dead league, right? That's just a league that's taken a summer break and it doesn't really matter what side you're on. You can't get anything done. That's the litmus test. When you can't do something, go try to do the opposite. And if you can't do that opposite, then you either have 11 other managers that just don't want to do anything. But it's usually just people aren't ready to make a move. It's not that the market won't value firsts or doesn't value veterans. It's just not the right time. So good question, but you probably have to be more aggressive to really get true information versus just saying he said he only went after Waddle and Wilson.
There's a lot of other else. There's a ton of other wide receivers. There's Amari Cooper. There's Mike Evans. There's a bunch of wide receivers that could help you that wouldn't cost you that much.
Yep.
Nearly that much.
All right. 2 more hammers. This is Noah G, 12 by 11, PPR, half-point tight end premium. Mahomes, Herbert, Gibbs, Connor, Cans. Marv, A.J. Brown, Tyreek, Cup, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, Cans at tight end. So no tight ends at all. We have 225 first and 325 seconds. Made a few big trades during the draft. How did I do? So this is a grade my trade, putting in the draft trades or draft day trades or draft week trades, whatever you want to call them. So the first one, Shane, we gave up the 103 and JSN for A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill.
I think I saw this somewhere. But anyway, so we gave up 103 and JSN for A.J. Brown and Tyreek. That is that's highway robbery. That is absolute theft. That is
remind the people that have not heard your JSN takes. What side?
I mean, it doesn't
the other there, Shane.
Would it matter? Even if I thought JSN was in, it would matter, I guess.
It would matter if that was a legit receiver you liked.
If that was,
you're also getting Jaden Daniels. I think it's a fair deal. If that was Brandon Ayuk or someone like that, okay, I could at least stomach it. If you had to get a quarterback,
maybe that's a little more fair. But JSN ain't in that range. JSN's wide receiver too. This is one of those moves, right? If it works out for you, you're going to go look back in a year and go, look how smart I am. Meanwhile, what happened is, or look, the other person will say, look how smart I am. But really, it was a terrible deal for them at the time. So it really doesn't matter if a deal works out a year later if you still gave away value. So that's what this person did by giving, by taking JSN in the 103 for A.J. Brown and Tyreek. So I like A.J. Brown and Tyreek side.
I always wonder how you get to a deal like this too, because I'm guessing the other person did like JSN and no one knew that, but he was probably throwing out JSN plus to try to get A.J. Brown or Tyreek and they couldn't find a deal, right?
Right.
So then it was like, okay, you can have this 103, but I need both. All of a sudden, you've now turned the tables on the other person. How much do they like JSN? Right? If they like JSN, they probably think this is decent value. They're getting a 103, which is probably not a pick you could get for A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill straight up. So there you go. Like that deal for sure. This is a little bit closer. Traded the 106, Drake May, 202, and the 212 for Jahmyr Gibbs. So, a top
and
an early first. Oh, and Amari Cooper. Okay. Yeah. The Amari Cooper is a big piece in there. I agree. I didn't even see the Amari when I first looked at it. That makes it, you can probably wash out that 202 for Amari Cooper, and all of a sudden it's 106 for Jahmyr Gibbs. And I don't even know if you can buy Amari for the 202. But point is, I assume you like the Gibbs and Amari side here. Pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll say that's a fair deal. It's a fair deal. It's actually probably no. It's right in line. If I needed a quarterback,
exactly.
If I'm the May guy, the guy that traded for the 106, I see making this deal, and I got the 202 and a 212 for an elderly wide receiver. So that's a fair deal, square deal. But I still like our dude's side.
I think both deals are ones where you've taken advantage of the fact somebody else needs a quarterback, right?
Right.
But you also haven't tried to gouge them to the point where, hey, you don't have a quarterback. You have to pay X price. Like, these were fair deals where you got what you wanted, but you were able to take advantage of the fact there was probably a quarterback need on the other side, and you got a little extra value out of it. All right, last deal. I traded the 111, 210, and the 306 for Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, and James Conner. That's a lot of points for some hopium there, Shane. What side do you like there?
Terry and Conner. I mean, not great about giving up the 111, but you got Cooper Kupp, Terry, and Conner for the most valuable pick being the 111.
Well, would you give up the 210 and the 306 for one of those players almost?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you got two more for the 111, I think the volume here, even if two of those guys get hurt or age out and one gives you multiple years, you still won this deal.
Yeah.
And hell, all three of them could give you multiple years, right? Like, you never know. Did you think James Conner would still be kicking strong in 2024?
Never had a doubt about James Conner. He's definitely the back that I looked at and I went, yeah, that's got a guy that's going to be in the league for 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Dalvin Cook will never play again. James Conner will play till 30, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, it's all that time he had off to start his career. You know what I mean? He's just it extended his career apparently. Yeah.
You never really know. All right, last thing. Any moves to make tight end or depth? Remember, he noted that tight ends are all cans, but we have 225 first. Would you be inquiring here on Kelsey since you got Mahomes? And you're not opposed to getting old players? Do you even care? What would you do at tight end? Here's the roster again.
I'm looking at Kelsey. I'm looking at Kincaid. I'm looking at, I'm not Laporta because that's too expensive. Let's be
stack Herbert up with his tight end. Get yourself some Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst.
Will Dissly. Do I have another 4th round pick laying around? If I've got a 4th round pick laying around, yeah, get me some Will Dissly.
Yeah, tight ends probably don't matter much in a half-point tight end premium, but sure, if you want to go, you're in the position with this roster to go and splurge. And if you wanted to buy a little insulation at tight end, I wouldn't be opposed to going a little bit overboard to get the right tight end, but I don't think you have to do it.
Oh, here you go. Josh got a good one. I'd buy Kittle. This is a Kittle team. Kittle,
Okay.
I got to be honest with you. There's not a lot of teams that I wouldn't mind adding Kittle to right now. Now that he's fairly priced, it's not the old days where people thought he was going to, whatever. He's a good spike week when he plays. There's a chance he's going to give me a top 8 week, top 5 week or better. And if he has one of his weeks, one of those spike weeks, he's tight end 1 or 2. So yeah, I like Kittle, adding Kittle, someone like Kittle to this team, or specifically Kittle, because there's not really anyone like Kittle.
We got another hammer. This is 3 hammers from a very, very special Dynasty Trades in 5 listener. You ready?
Yeah, is it my mom?
No, it's Jackson Smith.
Smith and Jigma, my guy.
He took the time to donate $15 to his hammer stream so that he can talk about himself. Does he have himself on this team? He does. He does, Shane. So he's got himself, but he's got Hurts, Richardson, Bryce, Geno, Bijan, Warren, Monty, Connor, Garrett Wilson, Smitty, Devontae Adams, himself. This might really be him because he's got Garrett Wilson, himself, and Terry McLaurin. So he likes those Ohio State guys. And he's got Josh Downs, Kittle, and an extra second. So I assume no first rounder. What's the move here? It's 12 by 10. This is a good team. We have 4 quarterbacks. I'll answer real quick. I'm trying to liquidate one of those QBs. Can I liquidate Bryce Young? Can I add something to Bryce Young to get a first? Just give me some flexibility. Like, I don't need 4 QBs, and I definitely don't need 4 QBs when I have Anthony Richardson and Jalen Hurts. Like, Geno Smith is – I like Geno Smith. I think he can be good, but he ain't hitting my lineup.
So we would try to move Bryce Young for 25, 26, or even a 27 first?
We'd be trying to liquidate Bryce Young. We'd probably have to sell Geno Smith in secret. So the real Geno Smith, my quarterback, doesn't find out I'm selling him.
Would be awkward. Very awkward.
Yes. I mean, any other moves here? I mean, this is a pretty good team. I think we can maybe sell a running back too. We don't need James Conner and Monty and Warren and Bijan. You could probably liquidate from there, but I think this is actually a perfect roster that will lead into our discussion here in a little bit on where you can maybe trim down. But anything you would do off the rip?
I mean, his quarterback room is obviously set. Then he's got Bijan, Warren, Amani, Connor. He's fine there. If any, I mean, he's got Adams, who's old but still really good. He's got a couple wide receiver twos and Smitty and G Will. Although I guess G Will, people think he's going to be a wide receiver one. I guess, can I fool someone to take G Will and an extra second and see how high I can get a wide receiver?
I got an idea. Would you sell yourself?
You know the answer to that, dude. You already know the answer.
And the reasoning behind it is not what you think. It is that I'm too busy managing dynasty teams now that I'm actually not going to score a lot of points.
I should probably not manage dynasty teams. Although, look, if he's just got the one league, you know what I mean? He's a novice. He's a casual. He could probably manage that. You know, just put your lineup in before the game. He's a West Coast guy, so he's got to get up earlier, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you should be putting your lineups in all week. So anyway,
it was kind of a rhetorical question, but at the same time, like, this is the kind of roster where if you immediately say, I'm going to go try to sell Devontae Adams, it's like, nah, he's old. You go try to sell Terry McLaurin, he's older, or he's not as old as Devontae Adams, but he's not as good as Devontae Adams.
Right.
And then Josh Downs is probably one of the receivers that this has come up in the Discord a bunch over the last couple of days. Josh Downs, Shane, is probably closer to JSN than the value likely reflects on the market. Would you agree with that? If that's your last flex, Josh Downs is probably closer to JSN production-wise, yet their market value would be, I guarantee somebody would give you a first for JSN. Josh Downs is, I don't even know who he plays for.
I'm going to try not to say too many things bad about JSN. I just want 1 weekend or 1 week where I'm not getting attacked in the comments. But you're not incorrect.
Yeah, this leads into our discussion that I'm going to hide this hammer and kind of get into. What have you thought? I know you've been following. I know you're always active in the Discord, but over the last week or so, and it stems from some of the podcasts that I've done on Destination Dynasty, did the show with Tommy Blair. If you haven't checked that out, that was from 3 weeks ago. Destination Dynasty every Sunday night on Destination Devy pod feed. Did the show with Tommy Blair. He talked about kind of disrupting this optimal roster construction, which I've preached for a couple years now of how I play most of my teams. And then followed that up with Ty and talked about really kind of how to read that when it's going on in your league. What I've been doing, Shane, over the last couple weeks is really taking it to heart, going in my leagues and saying, I don't need this many innings eaters receivers. I don't need this many threshold receivers, especially in these active leagues, or especially in these leagues where I can just shift a running back into the flex. Like, I don't want to flex running backs. Optimally, a receiver 3 or receiver 4 is typically going to be better than a running back 3 in a flex, right? But not when the running back 3 on the open market, as Shane disconnects his camera on me, not when the running back 3 on the open market is worth pennies, and the wide receiver 3, insert whatever name you want to put in as wide receiver 3, whether that be Jordan Addison or Jaden Reed. Destination Chill, I was talking about Jaden Reed. People just absolutely smashed me. Why do I not like Jaden Reed? But the idea being that the running back in that spot, whoever it might be, pick a random running back that might be on your bench, Chuba Hubbard, Devin Singletary, something like that. Like, the odds that one of those guys can be flipped for anything close to the value that actually would hit your lineup. Shane, you with us?
I'm with you. My camera.
You changed cameras. You changed cameras. There you go.
My camera decided it was on some other stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I know you were still here, so you could hear what I was saying. But the idea being that the relative market value of the running backs that you slide into those flexes is just pennies compared to what the receivers are, right? And again, and I'm going to put this up because Drew put it in here and I get this question a lot. I would rather flex receivers, but I would rather either get those receivers that are on the bottom end tail of the war graph, Or I'd rather just sell them, and then I'd rather plug in a running back in the flex if that's all I have. But there's two moves. There's corresponding moves that go along with this, but I don't know if you've been able to follow. What do you think about that? Going through and trimming. Really, it starts by trimming your receiver rooms down, Shane. I don't need 7 threshold receivers. I either need to color up or I need to get out of a couple of those receivers, just given how many of them have sheer value. Chase and Cody did a pod yesterday on overreaction, and they talked about this. Same thing I've been talking about with the wide receiver saturation. There's 76 receivers, according to Keep Trade Cut, that are worth at least a third plus. Basically a late second or higher. That's not sustainable. The production curves do not warrant that many receivers being valued there, which means there's a blind spot. We're overvaluing a lot of the mid-tier receivers. And I know people are going to call me out and go, JSN, he's the exception. Jordan Addison, he's really good. Jaden Reed, he's great. Rashee Rice, awesome. Tank Dell, Zay Flowers. Like, there's a whole sophomore class. How many of those guys are you going to bet ever move into a difference-making range, Shane? And I don't mean top 6. I mean all of those guys I just mentioned, okay? All the second-year receivers from this year, aside from Puka. How many of those guys have a top 12 season in them? If you just had to put percentages on it, between Zay, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, how many of them have a single top 12 season in them?
Puka.
Not Puka. He's excluded.
Well, I mean, all the outside others. Of that, I mean, maybe one of them could hit it.
Oh,
maybe.
Perfect. Do you have any inkling?
No, none.
Which one? Meaning you would put your whole paycheck on one of the 6.
So if I had to, I guess my money, and he's the guy that's on the thumbnail. If I had to, you absolutely put a shotgun to my face, and you're like, you pick one or you die, or we're gonna shoot your face off. I guess I would go with Zay Flowers. Okay. Just he was a hot topic in the what do you call that, in the Patreon today, among other wide receivers. He did have a lot of spike weeks to end the year. So if I had to, that's the one guy I think that could be in the top 12. Jordan Addison could be there if Justin Jefferson breaks a leg and is out for the entire season. But it would be a fake ass top 12, and you would need to move him immediately that when you knew that Justin Jefferson was going to be fine. But on his own merits, maybe Zay Flowers. And I'm not particularly like hell-bent that could happen, but of the guys, I think it would be him. We already saw Jaden Reed, right? Just getting on player takes. Jaden Reed was out targeted by Christian Watson when Christian Watson actually played. Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, all those guys had significant target shares when Jaden Reed, which is just, what's the word I'm looking for? Embiotic? Sure, I'll use that as the word. I don't know if that's the word, but kind of embodies, there you go, kind of embodies this whole, embiotic. It embodies this whole wide receiver discussion, except on his own team. Jaden Reed does that all just with the Packers. But again,
well, no, I mean, you look at last year, Tank Dell was wide receiver 19 in points per game. Jaden Reed was wide receiver 26. Rashee Rice was wide receiver 29. Jordan Addison was wide receiver 31. Zay Flowers was wide receiver 32. And your boy Jackson Smith-Njigba, I believe, was wide receiver, I think, like 51. So right there, they all, and I'm just putting JSN in this conversation. You know, you can fight me if you think he doesn't belong even in the group of those 5. All 5 of those guys, you know what they showed, Shane? They're solid NFL receivers. They're not Treylon Burks, right? They're not Jahan Dotson. They're better. They're good. They're good receivers. But the debate is, okay, they're good receivers that have a certain type of name cachet and value because they're also new on the block. They just moved in last year. They're not yesterday's news. You know who else is a good receiver, Shane? Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson. Terry McLaurin. Those guys are good receivers, but does anyone really care about those guys now?
No.
Even when they're 27, 28. So I think the point of this conversation is that you probably can't sell Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin. You can't sell those guys for anything close to what they're worth to you. And if you're operating under this idea that you need these innings eaters, that you want to hit a certain roster construction, you want to have, if you can start 6 receivers in your league, a lot of our leagues are start 11 or more, you can start up to 6 receivers, right?
Yeah.
I want to have 5, 6, 7, 8 receivers that I know are getting 20% target share. I want to have a floor of, okay, I have 5 guys in my lineup that are getting 100 plus targets this year. And then a couple other rookies, maybe with some high upside. Like, that's how I want to roster construct. However, then if we go a little bit further down here and go, Shane, okay, you've started to look at some redraft ADP. You've played some underdog. What's the ranges of outcomes between, let's say, here's the names we've thrown around. How about Josh Palmer, Shane? Is it guaranteed JSN blows away Josh Palmer?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And for whatever it's worth, I've loved Josh Palmer for multiple years now, but no, it's not. Okay.
But there's probably 20 other names we could throw into that mix. I mean, there's veterans. So obviously you can buy your, Brandon Cooks, your Tyler Lockett, like those guys, obviously we know historically they're good players. We know they probably fit in a range where the person that has them values them way higher than what you're actually willing to pay. But then you go a step further down. Here's a guy that's been completely forgotten about. Shane, if I told you there was a receiver that has finished, I believe, top 48 or finished top 48 as a rookie and then top 40 as a second-year player. Okay, so this is going into his 3rd year.
So Drake London?
No, not Drake London. But let's see if anybody can get who I'm talking about here. This receiver is going into his 3rd year. He has finished top 48 as a rookie and top 40 as a second-year player. And newsflash, JSN, if he finishes like wide receiver 35, he basically has the same profile as this guy, right? From a first 2 years of production. This receiver is absolutely despised. 90% of the Dynasty content just shit on this player. He sucks. He shouldn't have a role. The team should phase him out in favor of another player. Any idea who I'm talking about?
It should be Drake London because that's what he did. But go ahead. No, I don't know.
This was a day 3 pick, which is the reason people don't think he should be where he is. Day 3 pick from the 2022 class. It's not Jahan Dotson. He was a first rounder. This guy's way better than Jahan Dotson, but nobody likes this player, and people actually like Jahan Dotson. He was mentioned in the chat. I see 2 people mentioned in the chat. There he is. Romeo Doubs, Shane. Legit people out there saying he should just be replaced. Give Dontavian Wicks all of his routes. He's the 4th receiver on his own team. I get it. It's an ambiguous situation. But that's a player you can get for very little. Yet meanwhile out here, people getting pissed at you in the comments if you trade JSN for a first. And if you told me that I have one spot, my last flex, and I'm just going to start Romeo Doubs, Shane, I bet you he'll give me 11 points per game. 10.5, 11 points per game. Now I'm aiming higher, but the key is there's a high likelihood I only get 12, 13 points per game from Zay Flowers, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, JSN, right? Yet I won't sell those guys for a first. But Romeo Doubs sucks. The gap in terms of what they're going to produce when you've set your lineup and you've hit a certain construction versus what their value is too far apart. So what are your thoughts? I've talked for 5 minutes, but what do you think about this? Because I think it's kind of blown people away on how you actually make this work. And it doesn't feel good, but
I'm confused by our patrons acting like this is all new conversation. Like they've never had this discussion before. I don't know. But anyway, I'm surprised by anyone that thinks this is what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial. If you have 4 of the same thing and you only need 2 of them, why would you hold on to 4 of those things? If you can turn 2 of those things into a profit, which is, I think, all we were saying, right? Yeah, it's not new. He's hearing about putting it into practice. Why is it new? I don't understand why it's new putting it into practice, because this feels like I don't know. Anyway, I don't understand. It seems intuitive, so maybe I'm a little confused by why people are so confused by it, I guess. Like, why do I don't need 4 wide receiver 3s on my roster.
Well, but here's the reason. Because we are at a point in Dynasty where the receivers are the dominant currency. Meaning there is a window now where the production cost versus the value you can get for the receivers. The gap is nowhere close to. I just did that thread yesterday on Underdog. Anybody that hasn't seen that, yes, it's about Underdog technically, but just read through actually what receiver production looks like across a season. How many different receivers actually are relevant? Now, we're talking lineup leagues here, not best ball. So if you're just playing in a start 10, start 11 lineup league, none of this matters unless you're acting within the scope of your starting lineup, right? If you're trading everything from your bench, then it's not really as relevant to this conversation. What I'm talking about is if you just run like the war in your regular 12 by 10 league, you're going to see what I'm talking about with the ranges of outcomes with some of these receivers. If Jordan Addison is wide receiver 29, he's not contributing to whether you win or lose any more than if you threw in wide receiver 38 Romeo Doubs. They're the same thing. They are contributing the same thing to your lineup. Now, you have to have the Romeo Doubs. You have to have the Tyler Lockett. You have to go out and backfill to have somebody comparable to fit into that flex, but I'm doing it with 10% of the market value because someone out there thinks JSN is awesome and they'll give you a first for him. Meanwhile, they'll let a player go in the offseason. I'm guilty of it too. February, who wants Tyler Lockett? Give him to you for a third. Might be more expensive to get him today because we're getting closer to the season, but the point remains. This is a spot that doesn't matter much, where the production gap is minimal and the value gap is extreme. So make the moves there. That's all I've been doing, and it means I'm paring down my receivers. I'm selling a lot of these receivers that people just perceived as really productive or really valuable for their young, and I'm just going to backfill with cheaper production. It's a spot to exploit.
Yeah, I think if you don't already know this, then I don't know what to say, really. Like, Clay is giving me shit that I'm not listening. I can't add to something that's basic and should be, I don't know, Dynasty 101. There's like 8-9 wide receivers that actually move the needle. I mean, I've been talking about it on Shane Says, the guys that actually hit 17 points and 15 points. And then there's a big clump of people that hit somewhere between 10 and 13 points. I think that's where we came. For years, we've been player agnostic, right? And isn't that where that stems from? That we don't care if it's Romeo Doubs. I was about to mispronounce his name. I don't care if it's Romeo Doubs, and I don't care if it's Josh Palmer. I don't care if it's JSN. I really don't care about the names if they're giving me the same production. And if one of them's giving me the same production, there's 3 guys that are giving me like production, but one of them I can actually sell for a first. Well, then I should move that one for a first, right? Because that's the one people want. Just back to that part of the conversation, right?
Correct.
No one is actually coming to me and going, "Hey, what do you want for that Josh Palmer?" You know what I mean? Absolutely, no one's doing that unless they're willing to give me a third, and I'm willing to take a third. Whereas, I don't want to use Zay Flowers. I'm trying to use another second-year guy. But for instance, like Drake London, I could get a first or multiple firsts for him, but he's never actually produced at a value that he should be worth that. How many current wide receivers? 2 first? That wasn't even worth 2 first. Sorry. I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing why it's.
Well, no. And I'm going to go a step further. Like, I'm really starting to get passionate about this. The reality is 90% of the receivers outside of the top 8 don't matter. Meaning, you know who I'm selling for first? Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore. Right. All those guys are gone. They're all the same. Like, here's the comment that I wanted to put up from Anthony. Sure. The move can be sell for a first, but if they blow up, they turn into elite receivers, they're worth 2 firsts. I acknowledge 10% of these receivers in this range, I will be burned by. Right? I sell all my Brandon Ayuks for a first. He blows up and has 100 for 1,510 season. I lost. But I'm playing in 50 leagues. I'm making hundreds of these deals. So 90% of them are going to be right. Now, you may not. And here's the key. No, here's the key. You may not be in 50 leagues. You may not make hundreds of these deals. Which means for your 2 leagues, you have to zoom in a little bit more and go, okay, do I really believe in Brandon Ayuk? Do I really? And if you tell me, hey, I just can't do it, I cannot sell JSN for a 26 first because I think he could be the next Cooper Kupp or the next Amon-Ra, then don't do it. But we have a community of people in here going, I'm in 10 leagues, I'm in 15 leagues, trying to understand the concept. And yeah, there's going to be players that we liquidate and try to get cute with and tear off of for a first, backfill with Pop Douglas and think we're going to get 90% of the same production. And then we don't. We trade away the next Nico Collins or someone better. And we're going, man, that was a bad move. But the majority of them, you are going to be correct with this outcome. They're going to just stay in this range. Fantasy Plumber nailed it. 10% chance. 1 out of 10, you're going to get burned and trade away a stud. But the other 9, you're going, wait a second. I moved Jaden Reed for a first? That feels good. Now I have a first I can reinvest somewhere, and I have production that I can backfill, and it doesn't really hurt my ranges of outcome. Anyway,
if you're in a couple leagues, sure, you can do player takes, right? You can look at Brandon Ayuk, for example, just because you brought him up, and you can go, well, what has Brandon Ayuk been? And guess what? We're far enough into his career where he is what he is. He's not going to be a top end wide receiver 1. Could he be a back end wide receiver 1? Sure, but so could. In that range of scoring, there's about 15 other guys that could be within 2 points of him. So you already know he's not going to be elite. I understand it more when people look at a player like Rice or Dell or even Jaden Reed or Jordan Addison, and they look at their scoring last year and they go, well, this should mean that they're probably going to be really good going forward. But then you're not taking into account their actual situations, right? You're not taking into account that Jordan Addison scoring increased 3 points per game when Justin Jefferson was out. His target share was something like 7% higher when Justin Jefferson was out, and he's trapped into being a 2. You're not looking at the fact that Rashee Rice, besides the fact that the criminal stuff, I like Rashee Rice, but they just went out there and drafted Xavier Worthy, and didn't they sign Hollywood Brown? So sometimes you can just look at situations, not just, but you can look at situations and the team is telling you that this guy is not going to be a number 1 wide receiver. He's just not. Sorry, going back to. Oops.
Well, and to your point, and I see some chat in here about, okay, what do you do if you just get a first? Like, I will be the first to admit my biggest flaw over the years has been I grind the 80-40, I grind the leverage deals to a point where then I end up with too many picks, and Shane, I don't use them. You know what I do with them? I end up re-rolling a lot of the picks to next year's class, and then guess what I draft? Lad McConkey. And then a year from now, I go, damn, Lad McConkey was wide receiver 31 as a rookie. Maybe I should sell him for a first.
So, and that's why you shouldn't be using those picks, right? They should always be attached. They should hopefully be attached to another wide receiver, another Rashee Rice, another what's his name? I forgot his name already.
Jaden Reed.
Thank you, Jaden Reed. Those should be attached to a wide receiver like A.J. Brown. Selling high should feel uncomfortable, right? Because you feel like you're missing out. You're like, wait, this guy is only ascending, right? If there was a market for players that we just wanted to sell high on that weren't good, then obviously it would be easy, but that's not how it works. Right?
Well, and if we get a trade and it says, Shane, in a 12-team start 11, would you give up a 25 first, a 26 first, and JSN for Amon-Ra St. Brown? That's going to feel uncomfortable, right? To a lot of people, that is a lot to give up for one player in a start 11, correct?
I would absolutely smash that, but yeah, I get the point.
The point is those deals are why you accumulate the picks, and I'm putting myself on blast. I need to be better, and it's not just the first. It's all the picks. You're not just doing this with first. The firsts are where the biggest deals are done. But you're doing this with a second, third swap, with getting a third for a bench player. Like, you're doing this across your leagues for flexible capital. But the key is to take the flexible capital to move it in places where it's either upgrading or, again, if you're in an active league, this especially applies to you. If you're in an active league and you have draft picks, you don't need more than a starting lineup today. You know what I mean? You don't need 7 depth pieces on your bench. If you're in an active league and you have picks, be uncomfortable going into the season saying, I have 3 seconds. I have 4 thirds. I should be able to backfill with some production when I need it. Like, you don't have to have the perfect roster, but it makes sense to get rid of some of these assets we're talking about in the flat ranges.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the it looks like about 13 to 15.1 points last year. There's 14 guys just in that range. Then if you want to look at the wide receivers in the 10 to 13 scoring range, 10 points to 13 points per game, that range is also pretty huge, right? And 10 to 13 points, really not, there's not a difference there. I'll say that. If your wide receiver 3 is scoring you 10 points as opposed to 13 points, it's probably not the reason you win or lose. But if you could sell one of those dudes for a first, like, I don't know who fell in that range, T. Higgins, players like that, where again, you know what they are, right? You have a track record of them. So even if you don't want to sell short on the rookies, which I don't agree with, because I want to sell short on most of the rookies, because I don't believe in most of the rookies from last year taking a step forward and being elite. But even if you don't want to do that, at least do it on players that have a track record. You know, like is DK Metcalf ever going to be a wide receiver 1? He's had one season where he slipped into the top 10, I believe. But outside of that, every season he's been a wide receiver 2, which is fine. But if you can cash out on that, and it's not just attaching that pick to another player and tearing up, sometimes it is about getting multiple firsts in upcoming drafts so that you can have more shots, so that you can get a difference-making wide receiver. Because let's just say I did get, I traded DK Metcalf last year for a future first. Say I got a first in the 23 class, and then I drafted, I don't know who was going in the back of the first. Jordan Addison. Let's pretend I got Jordan Addison. At worst, I broke even. I didn't hit my goal. I didn't do what I wanted to. But let's say that pick was in, higher, or I got Tank Dell. You know what I mean? Like, you're just taking more shots. If you've already got average, it's not going to hurt you if you draft another average player.
Yeah, I think it's just the behavior, and it's doing it over and over and over. You don't need to be in 50 leagues, but it's just understanding the principle, and it's why I'm doing it. Sure, it helps that you're able to leverage a lot of moves and prey on the fact that, I probably have 3 to 5 shares of every receiver to trade away, right? Like, I can pick the ones that basically the leagues I want to move in certain spots based on my roster construction. And I'm speaking to a lot of people. How many trade questions do we get where people just post disgustingly good teams? Right? Like teams where you go, wow, they have 17 assets and start 11. Like that team doesn't need 17 assets. This implores people that have good rosters, that you've really cultivated your roster over a couple years, and it's in a good spot. You're rolling out a Deontay Johnson as your wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6. You have a couple rookie picks. Like, trade from your strength. Take advantage of this even more when you have excess. And I put the thread in the chat for everybody, the wide receiver thread that I did yesterday. It's very interesting just looking at last year. I used wide receiver 40 and above because that's typically what fires weekly in an underdog format, just given because it's half PPR and it's shallower lineups. Like, that's where the flex cutoff is pretty much every week, wide receiver 40. But Shane, how many receivers last year posted, just trivia for you, how many receivers posted at least 5 weeks in the top 40? Take a guess.
5 in the top 40?
Mm-hmm. Oh, here, I'll give you an easier one. How many receivers posted more than 3 weeks in the top 40, but less than 6?
So between 3 and 6, top 40.
Basically, either 4 or 5.
Yeah, Sanford's got 60. Fantasy Plumber's got 110.
No, it's less. I'm confusing it because there's a ton of numbers, but between
no. You're saying how many wide receivers gave you at least 3 top 40 weeks last year?
3 top 40 weeks. Yeah, Sanford's close on that. It's 80 different ones, but either 4 or 5. Okay, so either did 4 or 5, but less than 6 and more than 3 was 30 different receivers. Just think about that. 30 different receivers fit into that bucket, and none of those are inside the top 50. Okay, I mean, that's like wide receiver 51 through 80 were so flat, they almost didn't matter. And I get in best ball, you can take advantage of the fact you never have to start them.
Mm-hmm.
But that just tells me right there that unless you are telling me that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to post a top 40 week 7 or more times, he probably fits in that range, yet he has first-round value. Meanwhile, I'll give you the name, I don't know, pick a random name. Pop Douglas. Probably fits in the same range. Now, he's starting to get a little more value, but the point is you find guys that have no value, you're going, wait a second, they can at least occupy that same spot. But yeah, 80 different receivers did it at least 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more interested in how many wide receivers give you at least 3 top 12 weeks. Those are guys I care about. You know what I mean? Just back to the.
It's not a lot.
Yeah,
I have the data in front of me. It's too much to regurgitate right now, but it's not. It is not a lot.
Right. So the guys in this, I think one of the overarching points of this is these guys are all kind of replaceable, right, in this range. And all we're saying is if you can get a first plus in some cases for players like this that are more than likely replaceable, then do it. You have more for your war chest. You have more if you want to attach that pick to another player and try to tier up. You also have assets to use in season when you know what your needs are and then injuries hit. That first and that second might be more valuable to you than Zay Flowers is on your roster, just because the way you can use it and the way you can redistribute the wealth of your wealth, I should say.
You know who gave you 3 top 4 weeks last year, Shane?
3 top 4 weeks besides
Amon-Ra St. Brown did it.
Yeah, well, I would say this: 3 top 4 weeks. Anyone that finished in the top 6 scoring wide receiver probably had multiple.
This was Adam Thielen did it 3 times.
Adam Thielen, good Lord. Very beginning of the year, right? When he was hyper targeted by
Week
Bryce Young.
2, 3, and 5. Yes.
Yeah. When he was getting hyper targeted, it was the only dude getting targeted. And then defenses were like, you know what we need to do? Just take a step forward. This dude cannot run past you. And that was the end of Adam Thielen.
You know who never had a top 8 week last year? Chris Olave.
That feels like a personal attack, but yeah.
I'm just.
How many did Garrett Wilson have?
I'm just spitting the data. Last year, Garrett Wilson, he had 1 top 12 week last year. That's it. Okay. He was wide receiver 7 in week 14. And that is the only week he cracked the top 12. George Pickens, 4 top 12 weeks.
I believe that because my dude has some boom weeks in him, right? Definitely has some.
And then 9 weeks outside the top 36. So that defines your boomer bust. But
yeah, he's
again, if you look up the WAR and you're telling me George Pickens is a perfect example. I didn't even mean to single him out. George Pickens in a start 11. You know what you do with him, Shane? You just start him. I guarantee you didn't get upset when he finished wide receiver 2, 5, 9, 11, and then he had 3 other games inside the top 36. You lived with the other games, right? Meanwhile, I mean, it's interesting to see that distribution. And it's why in best ball, this stuff's very, very easy to apply because you're going, all right, for every George Pickens, I need another George Pickens. But as soon as I have 2 of them, depending on when they hit, I'm going to be just fine with that 1 spot covered. So anyway.
I just want to bring up Anthony. He's got a lot of comments in there, but I like this one. I don't know if we've got him up here a lot, but he's chatting a lot. I don't know, whatever. He sells some first for sure, but he does have some player takes. Fine. You know what, though? That's fine. Pick one player, though. It's one player, and that's the one you got to take. You know, if you're going to take a bet on, make it an educated bet, though, is the one thing I would say. It should be an educated gamble. And JSN's not the one I would do that on based off, well, my education and the history of wide receivers that produce like he did. But you know what? Who's my guy? Chris Olave is my guy that I keep telling people. That's the guy. No, I wouldn't move him for first because I'm going to hold on to him because he's going to take a exploitive bet. There you go. Thank you, Josh. Being exploitative with the Chris Olave. He's the one dude that I'm like, no, he's the one wide receiver where I'm like, no, I'm not moving him. But if you come from my Devonta Smith and my Jordan Addison on that team, they can go. You come from my Zay Flowers on that roster, he can go. But Chris Olave is my one guy. But you can't have too many of those guys. That's the problem.
You want to do some more trivia, Shane? This receiver only had 2 top 12 weeks last year. Okay. This receiver also was the wide receiver 1 in both of those weeks. Who am I?
Only 2 top 12. Oh, Jesus Christ. I know this.
And he played every game. So this wasn't a guy that just played like 3 games and was great for 2. He only had he had 10 weeks in the top 40, but only 2 in the top 12, and both of them were wide receiver 1.
No, I'm just trying. I can't think. I have no idea who popped like that.
Interesting. He also has a teammate that is considered a top 3 dynasty receiver, and the teammate had 5 games inside the top 12.
It can't be Rashid Shaheed. There's no way he had a wide receiver.
No,
one
because
week, right?
Who is Rashid Shaheed's teammate that is a top 3 dynasty receiver?
Top 3. Yeah, you're right. My bad.
So that narrows your pool down to
CD, Justin
13.
Jefferson, and who's the third?
You nailed it. You nailed the teammate.
No, it's Jordan Addison.
Jordan Addison, correct.
Yeah. So
he had a wide receiver 1 game when Justin Jefferson played. How about that?
Yeah,
it was that Cincinnati game when he had all the touchdowns.
That's what I was about to say. It's he got carried, but if that dude is that dude's scoring, you can't do that. But his scoring was definitely carried by a couple games. So yeah, again.
You want to do one more before we take some questions? This is fun.
Yeah, we got hammers in there, or we have super chats.
This receiver, yes. If you want to donate a question, buymeacoffee.com/trades in5. We'll do hammer streams throughout, and then super chats are on as well if you want to throw one out there. Shane, this receiver finished as the wide receiver 1 3 times last year. Overall in a week.
Okay.
And he had 6 games inside the top 7, and he had 7 wide receiver 1 weeks, 3 of them 1 overall.
Hold on.
Who am I?
Can I go get my notes? Is that how trivia works?
No.
I'm going to go bring up a spreadsheet. You don't mind.
And these were called crooked numbers. 2 of these games were 40-plus points.
You're not talking about Tyreek. Got to be someone besides Tyreek because Tyreek's too obvious, right?
It was not Tyreek Hill. I don't know what happened with your mic there, but it was not Tyreek Hill. Older than Tyreek Hill.
Devontae Adams?
Nope. A guy you would classify as not a spike week player. He's a volume-based receiver. Garrett nailed it in the chat. Keenan Allen. Sometimes when you get volume and you just get a shit ton of it, like 20 catch games, that's a lot of points. But yes, Keenan Allen was the wide receiver 1 in week 2, week 3, and week 10, and he had 3 other games inside the top 7. And yet that's a guy, you know what? If you went to trade JSN for Keenan Allen right now, what do you think you could get on top? Second?
Oh, easy. Definitely a second.
Will JSN ever even have a single game where he's the wide receiver 1, let alone 6 in a year?
Wait, has he or will he?
Will he?
Well, I mean, I've already made my bet that no, because he's not going to be elite. So no, I don't think that's happening. I don't see that happening even a little bit. But, look, there are outliers, right? People like to point them out to me. Every time I bring up the fact that, rookie wide receivers that don't score at a certain range, like 75% of the time go on to be wide receiver 3s or worse, or whatever it is, they'll bring up Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? They're like, well, he sucked in his rookie year. And I'm like, yes, you got me there, Devontae Adams.
Here's another good one for you. Last one, then we'll get to the hammers. This receiver only played half the season. He had 4 top 10 weeks. Any idea who it is?
How many games did Tank Dell play?
It was not Tank Dell. Tank Dell only had 3 top 10 weeks. This receiver had 4. Any clue? He also has a receiver on his team that is way more valuable than him.
Well, I mean, that does not narrow it down. It doesn't narrow it down a little bit.
He played 12 games. 4 of them he finished in the top 10. 6 of them he finished as a wide receiver 2 or better.
Yeah,
the rest of them he was non-existent.
Yeah, someone said Christian Watson. I don't think it's him though.
It was not.
It's not Devonta Smith at Sanford. He played the whole season. Higgins?
It is T. Higgins. He had 4 games inside the top 10. Wide receiver 4, 8, 10, and 10. Including week 15 and 16, which was during the fantasy playoffs, but feels like he doesn't get any credit. But that's just interesting looking at some of these prototypes of where these guys. Now, keep in mind, this is subject to where they finished in the week they hit that number, right?
Right.
1 week, 23 points could be wide receiver 9. Another week, 23 points could be wide receiver 4. So, I mean, it's week to week, but again, where that finishes is how we measure it typically. So, all right, let's get back to some hammers. We still have another hour, so we can continue this conversation.
Hold on. We got a super chat from Jason.
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
12 by 9.
Is that how you say Jason?
That's how
you just blew me away. That's how you would say it?
Yeah. How would you say that?
I really don't know.
That looks clear as day to me. That's
Jackson. I don't know. But yeah, that makes sense. Jason makes sense.
Yeah. 12 by 9, half-point tight end premium, 6-point passing touchdowns. He's got Burrow, Kyler, Chase, Higgins, Flowers, JSN, Kincaid, Gibbs, Mir. Give Kyler and Higgins, get the 103, 111, and the mid-25 first, or hold and try to win. So it's a start 9. Are we giving up Kyler and Higgins for the 103 and the 111? I would take Kyler over the 103. I would take the 111 and 25 first over Higgins, but that ain't really what we're doing here. That's not just because the math like that. I'm still not making this deal. So no, I'm not making this deal. But I'll tell you what I would do. You look this. I didn't pick this on purpose, but look at that right there. That little meaty part there. That Flowers, that Higgins, Flowers, JSN section. Oh, I'm selling at least 2 of those dudes. But no, I'm not making this deal. I don't know about you, Scott.
Interesting that you wouldn't do the deal just because of the Kyler and the 103 part. You couldn't live with starting Jaden Daniels instead of Kyler.
Sometimes, even if the math adds up, you can't make the deal. I'm trying to win, right? I like Jaden Daniels, who I assume is who would be the 103 right here. I like Jaden Daniels a lot. I think he could be the best quarterback in this class, but I'm also smart enough to know that quarterbacks bust at like a 50% rate in the NFL from the first round. Guess what? Kyler's not done. Bust it. So that's why I can't do it.
So I can then turn around and trade the 103 in a second and get Dak Prescott in another first. Are you doing that?
No. Dak, half of his career. No. I'm taking Kyler.
Interesting.
One of those dudes is elite. One's had elite seasons. Kyler is elite.
I don't know. I think if you can do those 2 deals in congruence, there's no chance I'm sticking with what I have because I basically turned I turned Kyler Murray and T. Higgins into effectively 3 firsts and Dak Prescott.
Except the 111 is not a first. It has a 1 in front of it, yes. And for practical purposes, it's a first. The 111 hit rate is ass. So
you don't think I can turn the 111 into a 26 first?
Maybe if you could do that. But look, at some point, we've talked about this before in the Patreon too, though. At some point, you want to win, right? It is nice to win. And I'm not re-rolling JSN here. I'm not re-rolling a Flowers. I'm not re-rolling a Higgins. I'm re-rolling a, no doubt about it, top 8 quarterback in the hopes that the quarterback that I'm going to draft is going to immediately step in. I'm not doing it.
Okay. Fun fact, Shane, Wan'Dale Robinson had 4 top 24 weeks last year. How about that?
Everybody should be buying Wan'Dale Robinson then.
It's not about buying Wan'Dale Robinson. I just like to pick out these random receivers that had 4 top 24 weeks. Meanwhile, these other receivers that you think is very valuable only did it 3 times. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. So thank you for the super chat, Jason. I learned something, how to say the name Jason when it's spelled Jascen. I would have never put that up there. But thank you for bringing super chats back. We haven't had super chats on, but we're keeping them on. Anyone that wants to frivolously ask a question and put a super chat in there, go ahead. Feel free. But let me get back to a couple hammers here. RMG. Shane and Scott, you're together on a desert island. What critical supplies would you need, and what do you do on the island while waiting to be saved? Wow. Well, we have to narrow it down to how many critical supplies. It can't be unlimited. Otherwise, we could probably name a million things.
All right. So I'm
going to two items. Two items. What would you bring? Yep.
I need to bring food and shelter because I can't build shit and I can't hunt anything. So I'm going to quickly die without food and shelter. So those are the two.
So I was going to ask you, I would have said something similar, but do you have any background like in the Boy Scouts or anything, Shane? Like, could I trust you that we could build shit? Like together, could we figure it out or what?
I was in the Boy Scouts when I was much younger, and they asked me to leave and not come back. I was in the Boy Scouts.
Could you not like what?
No.
Use a compass or start a fire?
No. It wasn't even that stuff. It was I flooded a church where the Boy Scouts were held. So after that, they asked me to no longer come back. And I was kind of just an asshole anyway before that. So I think that was just, they were like, at that point, like, all right, can you just go away? So what did I do? I clogged the sink or stopped up the sink. And then it was one of those churches, where they have the drains on the floor, or one of those buildings where the drains on the floor. Yeah, I covered that up pretty good somehow. And yeah, they said it'd be best if I not come back to Boy Scouts. So no, I could not help you at all with building something.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Terrell says, funny, because look at the background. We did not plan that question with this background, but it's nice and fitting that we literally are in probably a deserted jungle, not an island, but a deserted jungle. I don't know what I would bring. I'm very, very reliant on electricity and technology. And, my first answer is I would just bring my phone, but then, the phone doesn't work. So it'd be useless to have the phone.
Yeah. So I mean, it would work for what, like an hour? But a phone would be really good because then I could call for help. So
except for when you go, wait a second, my phone. Hell yeah. Oh yeah. Doesn't work. It just has that SOS signal and just no bars.
Yeah. So no, I'd need like a machine gun, because that's the only way I could hunt is with a machine gun, because I wouldn't hit anything. Yeah, and we would still talk about Dynasty though, I bet. Yeah.
We would still talk about Dynasty, and I would ask you if you knew who the receiver was that finished in the top 5 4 times last year. Any clue? And then only finished in the top 24 one other or 2 other times.
No, man, these boom bust guys, I got to be honest with you, they're kicking my ass.
This is an interesting one. Wide receiver 3, 3, 5, 5, and then his next best finish was 13 and never had another game inside the top 20. Nico Collins.
Oh, Nico
Collins. Some of these are just ridiculous. I mean, you just look at, my God, you look at the Tyreek Hill numbers, and it's like, when does the single-digit top 5 numbers stop? 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. It's like damn near every week. Yeah. Legitimately. Even his shitty weeks, you're like, oh man, he was wide receiver 22. That was his 9th best game of the year.
I got to look it up again, but the spike week leaders, Tyreek Hill he's a monster. There's just no other word for it. There's a reason, I will not move him in leagues, but yeah.
Yep. All right. We got another hammer. No title here, no name, just 12x9 super flex PPR half point tight end premium, 6 point per passing touchdown. Shane, we starting to get questions about kick return points, punt return points. Have you studied this? Are you up on how you're going to play? Do you even know which one of your leagues have kick return yards?
The HQ leagues. Okay, I know that. And then I hope none of the others. So anyone watching this,
because other people have probably gotten the edge already.
I'm already screwed at that point. But I'm assuming the scoring is going to be so minimal. It's not going to be like Cody and Chase. We're talking about the Scott Fishbowl scoring, where apparently, who was this wide receiver 6?
Rashid Shaheed was the wide receiver 6
in Scott Fish scoring this year. This year's scoring, Rashid Shaheed would have been the wide receiver 6 last year because of special teams. I don't think any leagues that we're in are that extreme. So I think I'll be okay.
He was technically the wide receiver 9, but yeah, the point remains that he scored abnormally high due to kick return yardage in that format. So anyway, back to the hammer. We have Burrow, Watson, Levis, Jacobs, Cook, Monty, Cans, DK, Addison, Shaheed, Pitts. We have the 101 and 108. Who are we taking at 101 here? Leaning Marvin Harrison. 12x9, 6 point per passing touchdown league. That's tougher for me. I think in that format, getting a 6 point per, getting like another Burrow type is more important there than it would be in a deeper, different quarterback scoring league. I think I might lean Caleb here. What about you?
Yeah, I love Marvin Harrison, but even if you add Marvin Harrison to this team, right? Just look at it from this perspective. Even adding Marvin Harrison to this team, you know what you still need? You still need a legit quarterback 1. Because as much as I was in on Deshaun Watson last year, there's enough reason to be worried about him after last year. Will Levis, whatever. So, I think you got to take Caleb here. I think you do have to take Caleb here. You can reach out to whoever's behind you. See if anyone that has quarterbacks wants to, literally the 102. Does anyone want to move up? Does the 102 want to move up and take Harrison? But really,
I mean, what would you take in return if they offer you a third? Would you do it?
I know they're taking Harrison. No doubt about it. And I'm getting
it's alleviating the decision that you need to make. What is the choice versus what's the value of the difference between the two picks?
No. Because this is one of I'm taking Caleb here. Start 9. But then my mind goes to, well, could I get by with Watson and Levis?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you got to kind of weigh, because obviously you could use another receiver, right? DK Metcalf's your best receiver. So, I mean, you have a need for another elite quarterback and another, or frankly, a good receiver, because all you have is really a couple good receivers and you don't have a great one. So, I think it's probably worth exploring what you could get to add. The problem is if you just say, I'll give you a third to move back one spot, even if it alleviates the choice, it doesn't really give you anything of value. Like what would it have to be for you just to give up the choice? Would a second move the needle or no?
That's about when we start thinking about like, okay, just make the decision for me. You give me a second and I'll go ahead and move back one.
Would you give up Josh Jacobs and the 101 for a first and the 102? Like where the team is, would you give up any of your starters to get that deal done?
Yeah, I'm moving Jacobs, and I'm basically getting another first, moving back one.
What about Jacobs and Montgomery? Plus the 101 for the 102 and a first. You wouldn't do both?
No. Okay. Jacobs and Monty are first by themselves. Then I'm just moving back for free. I'm literally moving back just to move back. I think in this case, I'm going to take Marvin Harrison. I thought it through. I'm going to try. No, I'm not. I'm going to take Caleb. Yeah, I'm going to take Caleb. Like,
okay,
what comes along?
We're long-winded on this question, but what's the? There's some interesting conversation in the chat about what can you add to get a quarterback? What can you add to get a receiver with the other pieces you have? Because if you go Caleb, you now have Watson and Levis kind of chilling on your bench, and you have kind of a crooked roster where you don't have enough skill players to contend, but you're more than good at quarterback. Vice versa, are you better off taking Marv and just drafting J.J. McCarthy at 108, Drake May at 108, or just passing on quarterback altogether and just taking
more likely it's going to be Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Let's
not at 108. You're guaranteed Bowers, McCarthy, or May.
You're not getting McCarthy or May. They're gone.
Okay, then you get Bowers.
Okay, but then I still need a quarterback.
I'm just asking you, how does the 108 impact your decision at 101, assuming that you can make another deal?
You. I liked someone, I'm not going to give them credit, but someone in the chat said, can I move? You can't, though. You can't move the 108 and something for a wide receiver. You could move it for a wide receiver.
You can.
It's not the type
of wide 108 and Levis for a receiver, but it's going to be the kind of receiver we would be like, I would sell that receiver.
That I already have. It's going to be, hey, I added, Devonta Smith to DK and Addison, and is Devonta Smith an upgrade over Shaheed? Sure, but is Xavier enough of an upgrade where it's going to make a major difference where I'm going to win? I'm going to go Caleb, and part of it's just colored by, and I know we're far, far away, but just the quarterback class for next year is not looking especially great. I just listened to Shane Helm on UTH. I think it was either this morning or yesterday, talking about the 25 quarterback class. He's got literally none of them graded as a first-round quarterback, even though obviously at least one will go in the first round. And the last time we had a quarterback class like that, and we kept telling ourselves it was going to be all right, was Kenny Pickett's class. And how did that turn out for us? So I'm going to go Caleb. All that I'm going to get to Caleb. And then, what can I do with Watson, Levis, that 108, Jacobs? What can I piece together to get a wide receiver? Even if I have to do two moves. You know what I mean? Like if I move, can I move Jacobs and Levis, some combination of that for a wide receiver, and then add the pick to whatever wide receiver I get, and then try to tier up there. So a lot of different things you could do.
Yep. All right. We got 3 more hammers. Don't Matter 07, 10 by 10, Superflex, Burrow, Baker, Fields, Cans, Bijan, Montgomery, B-Rob, Cans, Puka Diggs, DK Adunze, Keon Coleman, Brock Bowers, and a 25 first, not mine, probably late. All other picks plus. Inbox offer. 10 by 10, Shane. Remember, 10 by 10. We are getting Amon-Ra St. Brown and a second. So pick, let's call it 16 through 20. We are giving up Bijan Robinson and Keon Coleman. Thoughts? So we're adding to Bijan to get Amon-Ra. It's a 10 by 10.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the 25-second and Coleman kind of cancel each other out. But I don't know how I feel about adding the Bijan to get the Amon-Ra, even with that pick. 10 by 10.
I mean, I assume Keon Coleman was drafted higher than the late second even. Maybe it was like the mid-second.
Probably, yeah.
But the point is you're not you're paying at least Bijan and a tiny bit to get Amon-Ra. And 10 by 10, don't get me wrong, I don't really care about Bijan or Amon-Ra, but it feels like I'm just making this deal to make the deal. But I don't know.
Well,
here's the theme. Does that deal help you win one way or the other? Proving you're not just which player is going to outscore the other.
Shit, I better plug in before I get shut off. Hold on. Jesus, I'm having computer problems tonight. And my battery was at...
We've been lost Shane for good.
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Is there an imbalance on this roster where we have to move Bijan for a
There's
receiver?
not.
I mean, receivers aren't awful.
There's not, but I'm looking at the running backs, right? I'm kind of good with Montgomery and B-Rob as my starting quarterbacks and adding Amon-Ra to this roster.
And we got a second. I bet you I can get a Zach Moss for a second or something you know what I mean? I could turn that into a running back if I wanted.
Yeah, I actually do like the Amon-Ra team side of this. Excuse me.
Okay, there he said. Any other moves he should be looking to make? Not really. I mean, that is a big move. I think it really, truly is a 51-49 type of trade. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys could break the league, and one of the others could disappoint, and you're going, why did I make that deal? But I don't think really anybody is super convicted on. The only thing that might lean me toward Bijan slightly would be the running back market in the league. A lot of these shallower leagues we get reviews from, they're just running backs are tougher to get,
Yep.
Could Bijan go for more in your league and you just haven't shopped them around? That would be my only advice. So appreciate the three hammers.
This feels like this is the type of wide receiver you need to get back if you're moving Bijan, right? And Correct. If I'm moving Amon-Ra, consequently, or conversely.
And not a lot of people give up a receiver like this for any running back, no matter who it is, They just won't move them.
And if I'm moving Amon-Ra, this is the type of running back I need back. Like, it's got to be Bijan, Brees, Gibbs. I would say McCaffrey, but that's probably not happening. But you know what I mean? It's got to be that type of player.
All right, we got a couple more hammers. Puma Sports International, 3 hammers. Strategy, stacks or folly. Help a brother out. I believe stack advantage is overrated. I see it as a short-term dopamine rush, potential distraction. Hear me out. It feels great pairing Tua with Reek, but shouldn't the process move always be Purdy, QB14 better than Tua? While they feel great and may result in spike weeks across a given year, the advantage of any stack is superficial. They aren't worth chasing. If they fall in your lap as BPA, it's a thing of beauty, but for the senses, but to seek them out is mathematical folly. What am I missing? So let me hit on this one, Shane, real quick. Stacking can give you the very, very short-term 1 week. If Tua goes for top 5 numbers, obviously he's going to drag Tyreek probably there with him, right? That's how he's getting there most likely. But where I want to stack, and this is just how I kind of view stacking from a dynasty lens, underdog is different. You're trying to win a big tournament. You need those crooked numbers. You're already betting on Tyreek Hill in the first 3 picks of your draft, right? You have to probably bet when he has his spike week, when you're trying to beat 672,000 teams. You probably are willing to betting on Tua in the same league. For Dynasty, though, I look at it like this. Do I value stacks if I'm getting Nico Collins and CJ Stroud versus Nico Collins and, I don't know, Lamar Jackson? Not really. Right? Like, that's not where I think the stack benefits you. You know where a stack benefits you, Shane? When you don't have a good tight end. And you go, okay, I'd rather have Dalton Schultz over Dallas Goedert on a league where I have CJ Stroud. That's where I think a stack helps you. When you go even further at receiver, if it's your last receiver that you're starting, your wide receiver 6, and you have 4 guys and you're not sure who to play, but you're kind of confident rotating in these 4 receivers every week is my last flex. If you have Kirk Cousins, make that receiver Darnell Mooney, not 4 players equivalent to Darnell Mooney, right? Pick one. find the lowest common denominator spot on your team and stack there. Cheap tight ends, cheap flex receivers. Like that's where I think stacking is beneficial, but it's not because, I have to have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I have to have Tyreek Hill too. I have to have Brock Purdy, George Kittle. Like those ranges of players are already in your lineup anyway. So I agree, like not overpaying for the stack there, especially when it comes to dynasty value, because it's more than just the short term. So that's my thoughts on the question. What are yours?
No, I mean, I think his points were well explained. I don't know what I'm looking for. Is it like, yeah, I shouldn't be taking a less good player just because I have his quarterback. You know, like you said, I don't want to trade for Jordan Addison just because I don't want to trade. I feel like I'm picking on Jordan Addison. I got to pick another name.
Well, he's like my
guy.
I read you off Tyreek Hill's finishes last year, right?
Yeah.
Where did that leave Tua, Shane?
He still sucked. Oh, excuse me. Before people come for me with pitchforks. I'm sorry. He didn't suck. He was a mid QB2. Very good. Very impressive, leading the league in passing.
And now where would his numbers have been if he didn't have Tyreek Hill?
That is the scary thought. That is the scary thought.
The point is,
so I don't
that
want
example of Tua
right.
Tyreek, that is a folly because in reality, it actually was. It didn't elevate Tua because you had Tyreek, right?
No.
Like from a fantasy perspective, having them together didn't elevate Tua like it elevated Tyreek. And that's because Tyreek is probably the elevator. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, well, yeah, just to that point. I mean, again, that's the perfect explanation of it. Is like just because I can get the stack, if I can get Tua, that doesn't mean that I'm going to give up Jalen Hurts to get Tua, so I can have the stack. Like that would be folly, and that would be absolutely ridiculous.
And why is Mahomes and Kelsey a nice stack, Shane? Because historically, both of them smack.
Both of them are elite. Yeah, I mean, Mahomes has been a QB2 or better like 4 times, and Travis Kelsey was putting up wide receiver 1 numbers for like a good bit of his career. You don't need the stack. Both of them are great on their own.
Right. Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Koopa Troopa. He did put up a good pod with talking about this on the last Grinding the Edge show on South Harmon. He put this out last week talking about stacking and correlation with dynasty winners. So it was a good show. A lot of those topics are things that, unless you have the data and you're able to parse through it, he puts together a good show usually every week talking about different things. And he did have a stacking show. It was good, worth listening to. All
right, let me get to some of these. We got a super chat from T-Law Shampoo. It's half. Oh, 1 of 2. 1 of 2. That's what that means. Jesus Christ, Shane. 12 by 11. 1.0 tight end premium. He has Herbert, Caleb, Dak, Penix, Brian Robinson, Cairns, Puka, Deontay, Dobbs, Dotson, Andrews. 425 first. Someone else's second. He's got 226 seconds. His own 26 second. Dynasty Daddy likes that he owns his firsts. Likes the first that he owns, excuse me. Any other moves he can make in prep for next year? He's pretty clearly the 101 something. Just moved Higgins and Deontay. Just moved Higgins for Deontay in a first. Have the skull bones, no meat, though. First of all, I absolutely love that moving Higgins for Deontay in a first. The fact that you got something added to a first is ridiculous to me.
And it's 12 by 11. That is why you just send the offer, because I wouldn't even send that thinking nobody's going to add a first to another usable. I mean, that deal right there is one that most people in here are probably going, there's no way I'll be able to make that in my league. Shane, that's an even better deal than just trading Higgins for a first, right? You've actually killed 2 birds with 1 stone. You're getting the replacement guy who you might be able to then even go and flip him and get even more. I mean, that's a hell of a deal, but send those out. Like I just assume those aren't even going to work, but like if you can sell your Devontae Smith and Ayuk types for that deal in a 12 by 11, like I would sell every one of my non-elite receivers in that for that.
And that's what I was going to say.
I don't care who it is.
Yeah. Deontay, Dobbs, Dotson obviously can go. B-Rob, once the season starts, when people remember that scoring is important, he can go. Obviously, I think you're looking to move Dak once the season starts, or at least I guess you're not pressed to, but if you get you should get at some point a good offer for Dak. I mean, there's just lots of
You know how
players
you
that
move
could
Dak?
still
You
move.
wait for the younger quarterback not to play, or you wait for an injury at quarterback where somebody loses a Burrow or somebody like that, and you go, now they're desperate, right?
Right.
Like you're in the position where you don't care about A, getting a quarterback back as your primary piece, but B, you don't care about taking on injury risk either. Like that's where you can move Dak, but you have to be willing to act as soon as that deal comes your way.
So Justin Brooks, he just wanted to send thoughts and prayers to Clay and his family. If you missed it, Clay's not with us tonight. He'll be back next week. Fortunately, Clay had some sad family news last week. So he put that out on Twitter. You can just check out his tweet. I won't put it out on here. But yeah, appreciate the kind thoughts to Clay. Kyle Deshanes. Sure. Kyle Deshanes also wanted to prayers up to Clay. Again, yeah, just hey, if you like Clay, just give him a message. You know what I mean? It's good to say nice things to people sometimes. That's what I'll say. Just tell the people you love that you love them. And that's about as sweet as I'll ever get. Back to a super chat. Evan Smith, 12 team, half point PPR. It's 12 by 8, Scott. So it's a shallow. Plus 5 IDPs. He's got, here's the offer. Would you give up? It's 12 by 8. Waddle and Benson for G. Wilson. And then let's look at his wide receivers that he already has. He's got Olave, Neighbors, obviously Waddle, Dio John, Godwin, and then his running backs, Jacko Benson, Singletary, Goddard, Tsunat. This is one of those you're making a bet, right? If you do this, you're making a bet that Garrett Wilson.
I could give you data that tells you Jalen Waddle could be better than Garrett Wilson. I could tell you that Garrett Wilson is smart to buy because he could be the next Justin Jefferson. Like you really are making a bet. I don't know. What would you do here? I don't have player takes. Like this is the exact type of deal where I struggle because there's not really a process here. Trey Benson doesn't move the needle in a start 8 that I really like. I'm worried about throwing him in. So it's really a bet.
You're making a bet. Is Garrett Wilson going to be what we thought he was going to be after his rookie season, right? You're making the bet. Is he going to be a top 10 wide receiver?
Let's even zoom out from there. Let's say both Garrett Wilson and Jalen Waddle finish top 12, but not top 5, okay? Which one do you have the potential that can get you even a tier higher? Is that a consideration here?
Yeah, it's still going to be.
I'm moving one tier closer to the elite just because I'm getting this asset. Now, if I don't take advantage of it in a certain window, it's not going to matter because if Garrett Wilson isn't top 12 next year, he's not going to stay in this range, right? Like he's going to fall.
So that's the one thing, right? Waddle has actually produced, right? He's outproduced Garrett Wilson throughout their career. Obviously, they played a different number of years, but if you look at Waddle's rookie season, Waddle's second year, and compare those to Garrett Wilson's first and second years, Waddle's the dude. I don't know. I don't feel like I should add a whole ass Benson to this deal. Like if you want to take a late second and make this bet, sure. But I will say this, I understand making the bet. If you're that convicted, if you have that much conviction in Garrett Wilson, sure. It's just I don't know that they're that different. Obviously how they get there is different, but I don't know that they're that different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just comes down to what does that leverage have to actually get you? You know, does Garrett Wilson turn it into Waddle and Trey Benson? Does Trey Benson get you anything meaningful? If you can say yes, it could. If there's a path, then I'm okay doing it.
So, yeah. It's almost like, well, what can I add to, if I'm just going to do this, right? I'm pot committed on moving Waddle. Why don't I just see what else I can add to Waddle?
Well, read
really
this question.
Get into the
this is one that challenges the
no, it's a 10 team start
10 by 8. So do you even care how much you add to get Justin Jefferson?
4-point passing touchdown, JJ for Olave, Wilson, and 225 first. All right, so you have a start 8. So I'm going to assume if you are sending Olave, Wilson, and 225 first for Justin Jefferson, how do I say no to that deal? I know it's a start 8. There's only 80 players.
No, this is the price of getting a hammer. You have to absurdly trade away all of your flexibility and leverage because you're disrupting somebody else's hammer, Shane. You're giving somebody else like 4 separate tools and none of them hammer a nail into a wall. They got to figure it out now.
in a start 8, even in a start 8, I don't want to give that much up for one player. Like the rest of my team would have to be just no, I'm not doing it. I love Justin Jefferson. Absolutely love him. Now, of course, if you want to look at the negative, Olave could not take a step forward, right? He just stays being a wide receiver too. Wilson adds a second N to his name, but he doesn't add a top 12 season to his name. So you've got 2 wide receiver 2s. And then what if there's 25 firsts in the back end? Then you feel like the bee's
Would you give up
right?
Olave in 2 firsts for Tyreek Hill?
I'd give up Olave. If you just take out either Olave or Wilson from this deal, I'll make the deal.
Okay, but I'm guessing because the other person values. I mean, I'm guessing that's not that's a deal breaker.
That's not an option. Yeah. So start 8, 10 teams, only 80 starters. I don't know, man.
Come on, you're Mr. Hammer hunting. This is what it takes to get the hammer in a shallow league like this. There's no pussyfooting around, paying less. Mm-hmm. It's right in your inbox, Shane. You are 1 click away from Justin friggin' Jefferson being on your team.
20 points per game. That's a dude that scores 20 points per game. Olave and Wilson can only dream about that, dude. Only dream about that. And I love Olave, but Olave'd have to increase the scoring 5 points per game.
The side with 4 pieces is a lot more fun to look at, right? Until
I have 2 wide receiver 2s that let's even say Olave. Do I think Olave could be ever be Justin Jefferson? Let's just put it there. Is he ever going to be in that range? No, I don't think so.
He's had 1 top 8 week in his whole career, Shane. Yeah. Like he's not an elite receiver. He's good, but in a start 8, 10 teamer, you know who Olave's a lot closer to? He's a lot closer to like Michael Pittman, where you just know what he is. He's steady.
Look, I'm going to assume you have the assets to do this if you're doing it. So, yeah, get JJ. Get him. All right, that's all the super chats I had in there. But
now he'll follow up and say, Shane, I only have 3 players on my team.
I have a start 8, but I have a thin roster. Like, wait, what?
Let's put up a couple of these from the beginning of the stream, then we'll get back to a couple of hammers. Brian. Can't wait for the stream. Best Dynasty channel in the game. Brian, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the nice comment. Here's one. This is right up Shane's alley, okay? You started, so I'm going to put you on blast here. Any 32-team league tips, Shane? Just joined one. Is this trolling us, maybe?
Yeah, go be friends with...
We had no clue. Go be friend
Yeah, go be friends with him. Start 5 because this is the exact same setup he had. Any tips? Yeah, get a pick that's early in the first round and get a quarterback, and then good luck.
Here's the tip: go listen to the stream from 2 weeks ago where we were utterly confused for 5 minutes about this same question, and leave it at that. But thank you for giving us a little jab there. Let's put this one up from Alex real quick. Took our input from last week. How did I do on these trades? So real quick, give him the grade on these trades. 12/9 PPR, 0.25 per passing first down, 0.5 per rushing receiving first downs. All right, Shane. We gave up Tyreek Hill and Derrick Henry for the 103. No joke. I think you earlier in the stream said you'd give up 103 for Tyreek Hill.
I'm assuming, I don't remember, but I'm assuming Alex was pretty much completely cock blocked at the quarterback position, right? Like he had absolutely.
I have no clue.
I'm assuming. I don't love it because it's Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill outscores. I got to look it up, but pretty much every quarterback in the league. And I know you've only got 2 more years of it.
Do you care giving up a Derrick Henry to get what you want, though? Like, is that big of a tax?
No. The Tyreek Hill, the Derrick Henry part, it really doesn't even matter that much to me. It's not great giving him up, but whatever. If you have to, that's what you need to do to get the deal done.
And it's a 12/9. If you have a difference-making quarterback, it goes a longer way in a shallower league, right? Like having a difference maker there for a longer term, time, especially wherever your team is, it could be more valuable to have that. You got to take the shot, I think.
If Jaden Daniels turns into Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson for most of his career, then it's hard not to like this deal. And sometimes you just got to take a risk.
Yep. He made another deal too. Kyron plus the Hollywood Brown for the 108 to get Drake May. So maybe he was cock blocked at quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't know if this was a different league, but he obviously traded Kyron and Hollywood for 108 for Drake May. Do you care about that one?
No, look, I like Kyron. I think he's going to take a significant step back this year. Hollywood is what he is, but you need a quarterback. I mean, I do this all day. If I could trade Kyron, yes, whatever. The 108, if you told me 3 months ago before I knew who the 108 was, I probably would have made this deal. So, yeah, I like this deal.
And then we gave up Rodgers and Zach Moss for the 203 so we can draft TBA or TBD.
Yeah, fine. I don't care about Zach Moss. Softer. Zach Moss is a trash can, whatever.
Are you taking any first for Justin Fields?
Yes. And you're still getting a first for Justin Fields in this day and age. That is incredible, dude. That is congratulations, Alex. I want to take credit for that. Like, I feel like we should take credit for that in some way. I just don't know how.
Except for that about 6-week window after the season where Shane wanted to buy a ton of Justin Fields.
I mean, I did. Well, no. Not for first. Wait, in season? Oh, in season, yeah. That's no different than buying a
end of the season. There was a window where you wanted to buy Justin Fields.
Yes, I paid up for Justin Fields and won championship, so that's why I did it. Now, guess what?
You're a maniac.
Now what? Justin Fields just hanging out on my roster. Nobody wants him. I gotta hope that he gets a start again or two, so then I can move him. Move off of him. But yeah, not now.
All right, Anthony put one in there. One hammer from Anthony, so we'll get to his hammer question because I know he's in the chat. Post startup 10x10 24-man roster, Superflex PPR, 0.5 tight end premium, 4 point per passing touchdown. Mahomes, May, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Najee, Mostert, Brooks, Cans, Puka, Nico, Waddle, Neighbors, Nuke Hopkins, Rashee Rice, J-Mo, Evan Ingram, future picks, thoughts, strategy, moves. So high level here, 10x10, 24-man rosters. What are you doing with this team, Shane? 2 things you would do with this team.
Trade May and Bryce for an established quarterback.
It's a 10-teamer. Good luck.
Well, I would try. I got to try, right? What did we just say? We just talked about a trade that we don't think could be made, right? You said, hey, I don't know.
I'll give you Brock Purdy for both.
Okay. Sold.
You do that? Jared Goff?
No.
Dak Prescott?
Yes. And someone said I hate I was giving Dak Prescott hate earlier. I don't hate Dak Prescott. It's just whoever we were talking about, I preferred over him. I like Prescott. I like Prescott fine. But yeah, anyway, he's not in that.
It is a 10-teamer. Yeah, you probably do want to consolidate your QBs. Yeah,
and then you hold on to Fields because he's the Rosetta Stone. He's the that's not
unless you can get a first.
Unless you can get a first, yes, obviously. Najee, Mostert,
can this team
Brooks,
win? Does it have enough
Nico,
to win?
Waddle, yes.
Okay.
Oh, but look at all this here, like this Rice, J-Mo. Well, Nuke, you're not moving him. I'd be looking to move Nico, Rice, and J-Mo too.
Doesn't this feel like a team that you could move Nico, Rice, maybe even Waddle? Like you could do something else with the pieces you have because your lineup is kind of your lineup, and you probably can't move Nuke Hopkins in a 10-teamer.
No,
I know you don't even need to say what you would do with J-Mo. He would be gone any second. He'd be gone.
Yes. Absolutely. And he doesn't. Oh, he has Ingram. Yeah, that's right. 0.5 point tight end premium. Yeah, I mean, those are players you're looking to move. Nico, Waddle, not both of them, one of them.
And you're in a spot with like Ingram, Nuke, Mostert, Najee, where like they're on your team, so they're either scoring for you or you want to get rid of them. You know what I mean? There's not really an in between with a lot of those players. So appreciate the hammer, Anthony. We got Andy from Australia put one up. 3 hammers from Andy. What time is it in Australia right now, Shane? Is it
is
like 18 hours ahead of us right now?
Yes, it is Friday morning, about 4:30 a.m. and they are sipping tea with koala bears right now, watching kangaroos jump on by. It's
14 hours ahead of us, so it is noon. So maybe Andy is watching this on his lunch break. It's a 10x11 half PPR. Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Deshaun Watson, Aiden O'Connell, Kyron Williams, JT, James Conner, Zamir White, Jalen Warren. Look at that running back room. That is just Man, which one can I move? That's where my eyes go.
Kyron and Zamir probably have the most street value right now, considering the return that you could get. JT, obviously, but I don't think you'll get the return you want in a 10 by 11. But anyway.
AJ, Puka, Marv, Devontae Smith, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. And then we have McBride and then Tucker Kraft futures extra 25 second. Looking to tier up from Watson to Kyler to get the card stack. The Kyler owner wants two firsts on top of Watson.
Yes.
In a 10-teamer?
Oh, wait, wait a minute. You already have Caleb.
A 10-teamer, I am not giving two firsts on top of Watson to get Kyler Murray. I don't care.
But you already have Caleb.
You're reading the same question. Andy is in Australia. He's 14 hours ahead of you, so he clearly knows the future.
What language do they speak in Australia? Australian? So I don't know. Maybe
they don't speak it. Translation. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you probably don't need to trade two firsts and Watson to get a third QB in a.
No, not a
third QB. A 10-teamer, Shane. No. They're not the same value.
No, but I'll say this: if he didn't already have Caleb and Hurts, I'd be 100% fine with it. First of all, it's a layaway buy. I'm spreading the first out over multiple years. I'm assuming he only has an extra 25 second. So he doesn't even have any other extra first. It looks like he's just giving up his firsts.
Correct. And we're betting on a QB that we're probably only going to start 40% of the time. Well, maybe
you know what?
You can start two, but it's too much here.
Yeah, let's deal in the world of reality. You have Caleb. You have Hurts, Caleb, and Watson. You don't need to deal for another quarterback.
Yep. All right. Well, we are done for the night with hammers. So we will. Oh, go ahead. Put some comments up. I know you starred. Literally, there's comments just growing in here by the minute.
Jordan Davis, Philadelphia Eagle. What's up, bro? 12 by 10 Superflex PPR, no tight end premium. He's got Hurts, A-Rich, Kyler. I'm going to assume that's Daniel Jones, Bijan, Brees, Marvin Harrison, Waddle, London, Puka, Dotson, McBride, Bowers, Jesus, Ingram, moves to make, trade tight end and non-tight end premium.
God, his wide receiver 4 here is Puka. He's got London ahead of Puka, Shane.
Yeah, his math is all fucked up here. First of all, let's reverse this correctly. So
Shane is so offended putting Puka after Waddle.
It is Marvin Harrison. I'll give you that. Then Puka, then Waddle, then London. Where does
Jahan Dotson fit in, Shane?
He doesn't. He would get traded for a second. If I could trade him for a second, that's the first thing I would look to do. I traded Jahan Dotson for a second in a league we're in together. Yeah.
So what's the problem here? It's a non-tight end premium. We have 3 of the top 8 tight ends.
Yeah, I don't need them. What can I get for Bowers and Ingram?
No. Wait a second. They're good enough to flex even in a non-PPR or in a PPR. No tight end premium. Now,
I know we like.
You don't know what I'm going to say. Okay, you don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, how do you value the fact that if nobody else, we have to assume when somebody gets a tight end room like this, Shane, nobody else values them for the reason we are bashing them, right?
Problem. Yep.
So at what point does the value of just not letting you have one of those tight ends actually outweigh what the detriment is to my team? Because it's not like I'm rostering Dallas Goedert or Pat Freiermuth where they're just dead ends on my bench. Like if I have to flex Trey McBride or Evan Ingram or Brock Bowers, it's not awful. So, I mean, how do you value that? Because I bet you people are like, I'll give you a second for Evan Ingram. You know what I mean? I'll give you a second and a fourth. Like, it's just, what's the point?
So here's and the more you look at his team, right? Like, where is he upgrading? Like, you're not upgrading from Bijan and Brees. You're not upgrading Marvin Harrison and Puka when you put those in the correct order.
McBride in London for Amon-Ra. Would you do that?
Yes.
I mean, that's if you want to upgrade, that's the kind of offer you got to make. You don't try to trade Ingram because nobody's going to want him. You have to go to the one receiver or 2 receivers that other people will see some name value in, probably Waddle or London, and either give up Bowers or McBride. That's how you upgrade. And they may not do it, but wouldn't you agree you're going to have to come with like a package of 2 like that and see what somebody will trade you and see what you can get?
Yes, and again, it has to be for Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown,
not Garrett Wilson, right?
Like, yeah, it's just there's no point in making the deals otherwise. So short of that, someone noted it in the comments too. Yeah, I guess you just play keep away with the tight ends. Evan Ingram actually scored 13 points a game last year. McBride,
even in PPR, when you compare them to in a 12x10. I'm starting the wide receiver 3 or 4. Like you're probably, again, it's not optimal to start 3 tight ends in a non-tight end premium. But if you were ever going to do it, it would be because the value is blocking you from moving one of those that you have. And it's not like you're trying to flex Pat Freiermuth. Like I said, you're flexing from legitimately 3 of the top 8 tight ends. So
correct.
Worst problems to have if you can't play it out. The last thing I would say is move the tight end when somebody gives you an offer. Don't go, I'd rather move Brock Bowers, but they want Trey McBride.
Yeah, there's really whichever. And it's not going to be Evan Ingram. That's the one you want to move, like Scott said, but that's not who people are coming for. Like Michael Bowers and Trey McBride are the sexy ones that people are going to come for.
Michael Bowers.
Brock Bowers, excuse me. So excited for this one. The Discord has been nonstop conversation. It has. Scott, tell people about our Discord and all the stuff they get with it and stuff.
Go ahead.
Oh, hit Patreon,
buddy.
Patreon.com. Let's
so you can see where to go.
Go to patreon.com all gas. There's that Dynasty Trades in 5 tier. If you go on the website,
that's what you want to join. The Dynasty Trades in 5 tier. Join that.
On the website, there's also the Destination 5 tier, which gets you access to the Patreon, of course. Hey, usually you get an AMA on Tuesdays. Not tonight because we went long here tonight, and it's holiday week. Usually you get the Friday drive. Sometimes we'll even record these things so that if you can't make it, you'll get to listen to them later. We've just had some.
Are you going to do a Friday drive this week? Are you working Friday?
I am working. Apparently I am working. Not especially happy about that, but I am working. So yes, I'll be doing a Friday drive. And because the drive will be short, because no one else in America will be working, because everyone will have a 4-day weekend.
That's right.
My ride to
no
work
traffic machine. Right. Yeah.
Assuming there's no fires on I-95. So here's a fun story. Last week, the patrons on the Friday drive got extra time with me. I think it was about an hour and 15 minutes or so we were on there, Scott, due to the fact that I was trapped on I-95 because I did not realize there was a fire earlier in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. So I was trapped on I-95 for over 2 hours. Good times.
And that actually never happened because it didn't record. So
it didn't record, unfortunately.
There's no documented history that it actually took place. Here's one for you. I want to ask you this one because I know you've talked about this in the past. Somebody else's team sucks and you happen to have their first, or they decide they want to go in the opposite direction of contending and you have their first. This person said, Ethan, he had one of managers first in 25 and 26. Should I be hesitant in dealing with them if I hold their pick? So it's a little bit different, but it's also essentially just determining how you equate trade value with a team where you're holding their leverage over their first round picks.
Absolutely. I should not be hesitant to let them know that they're going to need to give me whatever I want for them to get their first back.
I will not be hesitant to tell them they will pay a lot more.
Now, you have to do it within reason, right? You know, I have a guy, I offered his first, and I think his team's probably bottom 4 or 5, right? Probably 104, 105. I offered him his first and something else for like Trevor Lawrence and a starting running back because I need a quarterback in that league. At least I think it's one of my leagues where I have a Watson. I'm asking for just enough. I'm not trying to gouge him, but you're the one in control. Like you have no reason to move that pick unless they're going to give you absolutely what you need. Like there's not even a lot of room for me for compromise. It's either you take this or you don't. And if you don't, well, then I'm going to hold on to your first. And guess what? Everyone else knows you suck too. And I can use it to trade that to someone else and not you. So you're probably going to need to give me at a minimum your best player. And we'll go from there.
So what if you have their first, but then they are trying to like stay afloat? Will you help them out?
Will
you send them? No, like
no.
You're not trading anything that hurts you, but you're trading them the random Chuba Hubbard for a third because they need you're not helping them out in that regard either.
No. Now, if I can get a second out of them, make them overpay for a mediocre, terrible asset like Chuba Hubbard, and let's just say let's add a wide receiver. Not even terrible. Josh Palmer. There you go. I'll give you Josh Palmer, Chuba Hubbard, and a third for your second. I'll do something like that.
Even if it doesn't hurt you, you're almost refusing to deal with them it hurts you in terms of the draft pick value potentially, right. But in terms of like hurting your lineup or not. Interesting. I think that's where he was going with the question is like, I hold Shane's next 2 years of first. I'm going to just not do anything with Shane. There's no trade with Shane.
You. Absolutely not help you. Help you in any way. Now I might look at a deal like where you overvalue Devonta Smith. Maybe you want to give me your 27 first for him, and
let's go right to him and get more firsts.
Selling them,
bury him even
there
deeper.
You go. Exactly. There you go. Just keep taking their picks. I mean, the only problem with that is if you've wiped out their 25, 26, and 27 picks, and they're just mid, they're going to be really bad. There's 100% that team's going to be an orphan, but that's really not my problem. That's the commissioner's problem, I guess. So. Yeah, just keep kneecapping them and taking their souls. Screw them.
Oh, man. I'll put this up there. Joe Montana put in there. Where can I find more information on Warp? So we use War. South Harmon uses Warp. Many other sites have their own variation of it. Just search it, honestly. Like I could guide you to our site, destinationdevy.com. We have our War tool. Sign up there. I was going to say earlier, you mentioned the destinationdevy.com. If you sign up on the Patreon, you won't be disappointed pretty soon. I'll just say that. So there's going to be more access to those tools coming. But we use War. South Harmon uses Warp. There's like 5 other sites now that have similar tools. But like I would just search it on YouTube. The way I consume content, I either want to hear it on a podcast or listen to it on YouTube. Like for me, I'm not interested in searching it and reading a long form article about how to use it. Like that's out there if you want to find that. But I would just search it. There's tons of videos out there, tons of content where we explain it, where I explain it, where other content creators that use it explain it. So that's what I would do, Joe. Thank you for the question. What else we got in here? You started a bunch of these. What else we got? What's interesting to you?
I don't remember what Ethan's comment was, so I'm just get rid of that. Hey, for everybody, Mr. Padilla, not just us. Sup, guys? Hope you all have a good 4th. Yes, I hope everybody has a safe July 4th. Don't play with fireworks because they're bad. Be rad. How do I upgrade from AJ Brown?
How do you upgrade from AJ? Why do you want to upgrade from AJ Brown? And what would you pay?
Yeah. Should Herbert and Jaden Daniels, ETN, Moss Stevenson, Spears, and Kendre, Nico Kendre, Kincaid, Brian Thomas wide receivers? So that's not a question. So I'm just going to, I guess that he's telling us that's his team.
I think he's just listing the rest of his team.
Okay.
But I assume AJ Brown is on the team too?
Because you say, how do you upgrade from AJ Brown? You don't, because AJ Brown is a top eight wide receiver. So I sure you could upgrade from him. Do you want to add a first to try to get the CD Lamb? I mean,
Jaden Daniels and AJ Brown for Josh Allen.
I already have Stroud and Herbert. No.
Right. With Stroud, Herbert, and Jaden, what I'd probably not be looking to do is trading more on top of AJ Brown when I have those 3 QBs. I'd rather just move one of those QBs for something different. The first I'm going to tack onto AJ Brown. Can I tack it onto Jaden Daniels and get Amon-Ra? You know what I mean?
So just I'm going to plug Shane Says again on Destination Devy YouTube channel. I talked about wide receivers that hit 17 points per game. And wide receivers that do that only in 43% of the time, or maybe not only, but 43% of the time they go on to score 17 points per game the following season. Guess what cohort AJ Brown falls in there, Scott? He repeated. Okay.
The elite one. Yeah.
Stop salting on AJ Brown's name. I don't know what's wrong with you people. He scored 17 plus points in 3 out of the last 4 seasons, points per game. That's pretty rarefied air. It ain't exactly Justin Jefferson. It ain't exactly CeeDee Lamb last year, but it's still really, really, really elite. So no, I'm not upgrading.
Here's a cool one. Chilled Pyro. I always watch your videos, but I didn't know you guys did live streams. Yeah, we have Shane and I have quite a history on Manic Chill. If you just search Manic Chill on YouTube, there are like 4 variations of this show that have been out there for a while. We're going on like 4 years doing this show sporadically, and it's not going anywhere. I love doing these live streams with you where we just literally just chat and talk about whatever's in the comments. You know, we need to make this a regular thing, even when our regular DTI 5 streams return.
And in the old days, we didn't take questions. It was literally just me and Scott brain dumping and talking through stuff like strategy. And it's funny.
Well, we did comments like this. We would just throw comments in the chat. But yeah, we didn't really, it wasn't like a trade show kind of like these have become.
And then it's funny because some of obviously some of it doesn't age well, but I think a lot of it does. And I think a lot of like the wide receiver curves that we've been on and the way we talk about wide receivers, I don't want to say we were ahead of the curve, but we were ahead of the curve. So go check some of those old ones out because why not?
Oh yeah, go back to the ones from like 2020. Just listen to probably how different we talked.
I don't think I had a mic. I think I was yelling into a Chromebook. But yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, we do live streams every Tuesday night, 8:30. It's usually Dynasty Trades in 5, but for the summer, it's been Manic Chill. Clay will be back next week. To everybody that's still in here, Clay will be making his prestigious return next week, July 9th, back to the regular rotation. But we will have a guest.
Yes.
Interestingly, the first show back with Clay will be more than Clay. It'll be more than 3 of us.
So. And then I'll be off the following week.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back. It'll be more like the old Dynasty Trades in 5 once Clay gets back. Looking forward to him getting back to us. We got a couple more minutes. Anything else you want to throw in there? There was some other conference in there about Kanja put in there. The name of this week's Discord conversation has been Zay Flowers. That you ever search something in Discord, Shane, to see how many times it's been mentioned? I bet you Zay Flowers has come up 50 times in the last week.
Did not know you could even use a search function. I would ask the Meebop to do it for me, but Meep hates me, so I'm not messing with it. Yeah, Zay Flowers has come up a lot, but Zay Flowers is just a proxy in this argument, is how I look at it. And I think there's a and then not in a bad way. I don't mean this. There's a segment of the patron in the patron that understand that Zay Flowers is kind of proxy, and then there's a segment that kind of disagrees with that. So it's been good conversation. I'll say that the conversation never gets heated, but it is very useful, and it's been a fun talk about Zay Flowers and wide receivers of that ilk. I wanted to. Oh, well.
Yeah, put one up. I didn't know you were putting one up.
Mad Axes. He says, player takes win championships. Players over process. Okay.
I mean, the right player takes win championships, but if anyone can point me to that channel that has all the right player takes, I'm interested in it. We could just follow that and have all the information. Would never need to have any game theory or any thought doing a lot of stuff like this. I did want to comment on this one real quick. Stickman87, can you comment on the viability or lack of viability of any QB on a 2 deep and a 10-team start 9? I mean, it can be viable. It's just you're most likely not going to take advantage of it to the same degree, right? Like, how often do you need a Tommy DeVito in a 10-teamer? Hope you never need him in a 12-teamer, but there were times where people needed even the bottom barrel backups in a 12-teamer. In a start 9, 10-teamer, like, you're probably burying yourself so badly if you're going down that far at quarterback, and there's just not a scarcity issue like there is in a 12-teamer. So that's the reason.
D-Walk, player takes are for owners with less than 3 or 4 or 5 leagues. Here's the thing. So this is but here's part of my issue with player takes, right? Is I think a lot of people have player takes, but don't actually dive into data to support their player takes.
Right.
A lot of their player takes are, I like this guy. His situation's getting better. Now, I'm a big whore for historical data because, if something happens, if A happens and then 75% of the time after that, B happens, I like to rely on that, And, of course, there's always going to be outliers. But I think that's my only issue with player takes is that a lot of times it's not based on anything. It's not. I listen to a lot of podcasts, not as many as Scott. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I wouldn't put them on blast here, but there's a lot of player takes based on nothing. That's my only issue with player takes. It's fine to have player takes. Just make sure it's grounded in something.
Well, I think we're also overthinking this. When you have 15 leagues, what do you probably have to do, Shane? You probably have to assess to some degree at least every player. Yeah. You have 15 leagues, right? You got to go through every team. The odds that you have pretty much every player. I know Koopa did a show talking about this, that once you get to about 20 leagues, like on average, you have every player. Now, you may avoid some players and you may have more of others, but once you get to that like 15 plus leagues, like you're really having to evaluate every possible scenario, right? Like you may say, I'm not drafting any Lad McConkey. He sucks. But if you have 18 leagues, there's a chance he's going to be on the board once or twice in a range where you have a pick. So you have to have a take. And you have to have an ability to say, okay, I like him, but I don't like this player. So you really have to kind of analyze the entire player pool versus if you have 3 leagues and you only have one chance to get JSN, you're going to take him at the 103 because that's where you can get him. You know what I mean? Now process would say, okay, I can get him cheaper, but you still only have 3 bites at the apple to get him. You don't have 15 leagues to spread it out. So I just think it leads to, like you said, less analysis where you actually dive into the range of outcomes because you just don't have to. And
then Cooley StatCat 9. Sure, that's how that sounds. I think this was a good question. We didn't specifically get to it, but I think we've kind of talked about it tonight, right? You guys talk a lot about process, but how should we alter our approach differently if we're in a small handful of leagues? And one that we care about the most first, portfolio process. Well, here's the thing though. So the process isn't really about, in my mind, it's not about being in portfolio leagues. It's about doing something that has more often than not positive outcomes repeatedly so that you actually capture those positive outcomes, right? You do something 8 times out of 10 you trade Jackson Smith and Jigba. I might as well just lean into it again. You trade a Jackson Smith and Jigba because you see what he did in his rookie season and what the outcome is most of the time. And it's not just a Jackson Smith and Jigba. Before that, you go back to it was a Treylon Burks. It's a Jameson Williams. You trade those players and you do it every time because you do it enough, you're going to capture that 80% hit rate, right? You're going to be wrong on 2 out of 10 players or whatever. So to me, I don't really think that's a portfolio. I don't think process is specific to portfolio is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, a lot of good discussion with portfolios. We could probably do an entire episode kind of on how we treat our you and I do it differently.
Yes.
You know, I zoom in a lot less than you probably do. I'm very much agnostic across all of my leagues. I wouldn't say I gut feel a lot of things, but I'm very high level. I don't even dive into my rostership and stuff like I used to, just because I don't have as much time to do it as I used to. But, you know, it would be an interesting show sometime. Maybe a future Mannequin show where it's not, you know, we're doing hammers and stuff. We can maybe dive into our processes because they are different, but we are both are managing a lot of leagues, and we are both, to a degree, if you're in even 30 plus leagues, you have to have a degree of just kind of like letting it rip when you get an offer. You can't study the entire league and go, okay, I'm comfortable. I've spent 2 months studying this league. Now I'm going to go with my attack plan. You missed out on 2 months worth of potential deals when they were going down in that league. So good topic maybe for the future. It's 10:33, Shane. We've gone for almost 2 hours. We started like 5 minutes late, so we owe everybody about another minute and a half. But for the future, Clay will be back. He'll do a hammer stream. I believe he's doing a hammer stream tomorrow, right? Is that the word?
That I found that out today, but apparently that's been in discussions for several days. I just finally paid attention today, but yes.
Yeah, well, it was news to me when he said he's doing a hammer stream. So Clay will make his debut again back doing a hammer stream with a guest, buymeacoffee.com/trades in5. We're about a stream behind, so you have a good chance at getting it on the next stream if you submit one.
I think, honestly, if you submit Buy Me a Coffee tonight, he'll get it on the stream tomorrow.
He should. There's we'll see, but it's caught up. Put it that way. It's caught up. And then roster reviews at dynastytradesin5.com. Join the Patreon, join the community. I see John in here said he sent a super chat. Did we miss it?
Let's bring it up. Oh, yeah. Sorry, John. My bad. 10 by 9.
I didn't even see it. So go ahead.
I did not. Sorry. 10 by 9, Superflex, 25 first and seconds. He has Lamb, Roman, Odunze, although it's just Rome, Hollywood, Polk, Coleman, Downs, Shaheed. His quarterbacks are, this is an interesting way to write this, Fields, JJ McCarthy, Anthony Richardson.
Listed them in order of quality there, right?
I don't know what order this is in. Running back is Miller, JT Brooks.
Kendre Miller over JT, Shane.
McClown Warren. McLaurin.
McLaurin and Jalen Warren had a baby.
McLaurin. Oh, that's awesome. Moves. We have too many quarterbacks, right? No.
He listed McLaurin under running back. So I don't know. Does that mean he also has McLaurin or?
I don't know who McLean is. John, who's McLean? Okay. Thoughts. It's 10 by 9. I mean, you already know I'm going to tell you that this team probably is not good enough to win, right? Obviously, I like AR and I like Lamb. You've got three. You've got Lamb, AR,
10 by 9. I mean, if you get one more elite hammer, you're in the mix.
Jaleel McLaughlin. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess McLaurin and McLaughlin are definitely different.
Moved.
Regardless, not moving the needle.
Yeah, obviously, you look at your players like Hollywood, Polk, Coleman, Downs. Problems is I'm guessing nobody wants them. You
got Jonathan Brooks. We have Roma Dunze. Those are decent assets we could move. Would you move Brooks and Odunze for one player?
Yes.
Brooks and Odunze for Olave.
Yes.
Yes.
No. Odunze, no. Odunze's already in that range anyway, right?
Malik Neighbors.
Yes. Now we're
Odunze and Brooks for Neighbors.
Yes, I'll do that in this setup. This specific 10 by 9 super shallow setup. Yes, I will do that. Fair. I will do that. I traded, by the way, in the league that I'm in. I traded the draft rights to Marvin Harrison for Malik Neighbors, the draft rights to Malik Neighbors and Deebo Samuel. So that was fun. But in this league, yes, I would make a deal like that. Because you are going to have to move players like that, like Brooks and like Rome, to get anyone, because it's so shallow. Like, I wouldn't want Downs. If you offered me Downs, I wouldn't even accept him for a fourth. It'd be one of those, I'd look at it and go, well, what am I going to do with him? You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't help me at all. So it is going to have to be kind of
like Shane, here's like the shell of a car, but it doesn't run. You want to park it in your driveway.
Exactly.
Sure, you have something that's worth $100, but it's more of a detriment. It gets in the way.
All right, John. Sorry, thought we missed you there, or we almost missed you there. But yeah, no. All right, so we got the full 2 hours in. This was a fun one. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Be safe on the 4th. Don't shoot fireworks at your face. That's a bad idea. Or at other people. Don't do that either. That's also a bad idea.
Yeah, no, for real. Be safe. It's been a fun summer with you, Shane, getting to do Manic Chill. It's much more relaxing than just rapid fire trade question after trade question after trade question. I mean, I'm ready to get back to that, but it's been fun doing Manic Chill with you, my brother, for the last 6 weeks. And it's been something we got to do a little more often. I know we do Manic Chill videos where we actually go through and do like scripted topics, but I think we should do something live, like at least once a month. You know what I mean? Even if it's just impromptu, because it's fun.
We can work that out, man. It's one day a month. We definitely can. Couple hours. It is always fun.
Yep. Happy 4th to everybody that celebrates, and we will be back next Tuesday night, same channel. Clay will be back. We'll be really kind of getting into gear for preseason and training camp. So happy 4th, everybody. Good night.